Master builders once raised stone giants to mirror the stars, then vanished without a trace. These forgotten architects left behind a celestial puzzle etched in stone, a silent legacy of profound knowledge. This journey will reveal the secrets of their astronomical alignments and uncover the truth behind their mysterious disappearance. You will understand how ancient cultures achieved a harmony with the cosmos that we have since lost. What happened to the minds who could map the heavens onto the earth, and why was their sophisticated science erased from history? What does it mean when an entire school of genius simply disappears from the world? The night sky was humanity's first great library. For countless generations, our ancestors looked up, not with telescopes or charts, but with an intimate, patient attention we can barely comprehend today. They watched the moon faithfully cycle through its phases, a reliable celestial clock in the darkness. They saw how certain stars would vanish for a season, only to return at a precise moment, heralding the coming rains or the time for planting. This was not mere stargazing, it was a profound relationship with the cosmos, born from necessity. A community's survival could depend on knowing when the sun would reach its lowest point in the winter sky, signaling the gradual return of light and warmth. This deep, cyclical knowledge of solstices and equinoxes became woven into the very fabric of life, guiding everything from hunting migrations to the sowing of seeds. This celestial wisdom was far too precious to be forgotten. It was carefully guarded, passed down through oral traditions from elder to apprentice, a living science preserved in story and song. Over centuries, this knowledge evolved from a simple tool for survival into something much grander. The sky was no longer just a guide for when to plant crops. It became a sacred map, a divine blueprint. The pivotal moment arrived when a community decided to translate this ephemeral celestial order into something permanent and solid. They began to build. The first attempts were likely simple markers, a single standing stone aligned to catch the sunrise on the longest day of the year. But from these humble beginnings, an audacious idea took root, the desire to anchor the heavens to the earth itself, to create structures that echoed the harmony of the cosmos. This was the seed from which the stone architects would grow, transforming generations of sky watching into a new language of stone and light. These ancient stones on Malta rise from the earth like the bones of the world itself. The Hypogeum and Mnajdra temples are a labyrinth of soaring altars and winding corridors, all crafted from colossal limestone blocks. What is truly staggering is their age. These are among the oldest freestanding structures ever discovered, built 1,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Their builders were a Neolithic people who possessed no metal tools, no wheels, and no written language as we know it. Yet they achieved a feat of engineering and cosmic observation that still resonates today. They moved stones weighing many tons, shaping them with painstaking precision using only stone hammers and wedges. The true genius of these temples, however, is not just in their mass but in their orientation. The main corridors and specific apertures within the stone are not randomly placed. They are meticulously aligned so that on the dawn of the summer solstice, a blade of sunlight slices through the darkness to illuminate a central altar slab. During the equinoxes, the light frames a different sacred space, and at the winter solstice, it strikes another precise point. This was not a happy accident. This was architecture as a celestial calendar built in stone. Archaeologists studying the site suggest these alignments served a dual purpose, deeply practical and profoundly spiritual. For an agricultural society, knowing the exact turning points of the year was essential for planting and harvesting. a matter of survival, but the effort poured into these monumental structures hints at something more. The light piercing the temple's heart was likely a central part of their ceremonial life, a moment when the divine cosmos communicated directly with the community. It was a ritual that tied their world to the orderly motion of the heavens, and then this vibrant, sophisticated culture simply stopped. Around 2,500 years before the Common Era, the temple building ceased. The islands show signs of a rapid change, a cultural sunset as dramatic as the solstice sunrises they so carefully marked. The people who had raised these celestial calendars to the sky vanished, leaving behind their silent stone giants and a mystery that echoes across millennia. What could cause such a brilliant tradition of sky-watching architects to simply fade from the world? Far to the north, another stone testament to celestial knowledge rises from the green Irish landscape. Newgrange is a massive, rounded mound of stone and earth, a passage tomb constructed over 5,000 years ago, making it older than both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Giza. Its most breathtaking secret is hidden above its entrance, a slender, meticulously engineered slit known as the roof box. For most of the year, the inner chamber of this tomb remains in deep, perpetual darkness. But for a few precious minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, something miraculous happens. A single, narrow beam of sunlight pierces through this roof box, traveling down the long, narrow passageway to dramatically illuminate the central chamber in a golden light. This event is not a vague alignment, it is a feat of precise engineering. The architects calculated the angle of the rising sun on the year's shortest day and built a structure to capture its first light with stunning accuracy. This was a deliberate and powerful symbol. In the depths of winter, when the world seemed cold and lifeless, these ancient people orchestrated a moment where the sun, the source of all life, would triumphantly return to conquer the darkness, even if only for a few minutes inside their sacred space. The meaning is deepened by the intricate art covering the stones within. Spirals and concentric circles are carved into the rock, patterns that some researchers suggest may represent the sun, the cycles of time, or even a map of celestial movements. This points to a sophisticated belief system where astronomy, architecture, and spirituality were completely intertwined. The solstice light show was likely a central part of a ceremony concerning rebirth, both of the sun and of the human spirit, connecting the community to the eternal cycles of the cosmos. The existence of Newgrange forces us to reconsider what we assume about prehistoric capabilities. This was not the work of primitive people, but of master astronomers and engineers who possessed a deep, generational understanding of solar cycles. They translated that knowledge into a permanent stone calendar and a profound spiritual experience, a legacy that has endured for millennia. Why would such a powerful and advanced tradition, capable of such precise cosmic alignment, ever be allowed to fade from memory? Yet the ambition of these ancient sky watchers reached a truly monumental scale on the windswept Salisbury Plain. Stonehenge stands as the ultimate icon of prehistoric cosmic architecture, a ring of colossal stones that has captivated the human imagination for centuries. While its silhouette is instantly recognizable, the true purpose of this structure is written in the language of celestial movements. Everyone knows of its alignment with the midsummer sunrise, when the sun rises directly over the heel stone, framing the heart of the circle in a spectacular display. But this is only the most famous chapter in a much deeper story. The monument also perfectly frames the midwinter sunset, a time of profound importance in the ancient world, marking the symbolic death and rebirth of the sun. This dual alignment suggests a sophisticated understanding of the solar year's complete cycle, honoring both the peak of light and the depth of darkness. The architects of Stonehenge looked beyond the sun. certain stone configurations appear to map the more complex 18.6-year cycle of the Moon, tracking its extreme rising and setting points on the horizon. Some researchers even propose that key features within the circle were once aligned with specific bright stars, creating a grand celestial calendar in stone that operated on daily, yearly, and generational timescales. The sheer scale of its construction speaks to a society with a powerful, unifying vision. The smaller blue stones were transported from mountains in Wales, a journey of over 150 miles over land and water. The larger sarsen stones were dragged from quarries over 20 miles away. This was not a casual project. It was a centuries-long undertaking that required immense social organization, advanced knowledge of engineering, and a shared belief system profound enough to motivate such Herculean effort. This makes its ultimate fate all the more puzzling. The site was modified and used for over 1,000 years, and then, gradually, the great work stopped. The culture that conceived and built this stellar engine faded from history, leaving behind the silent, towering stones and one of archaeology's greatest questions. Who were these master planners, and what compelling reason caused their descendants to walk away from such a powerful symbol of their connection to the cosmos? But the ambition of these ancient architects was not confined to the European landscape. On the vast Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid stands as the ultimate expression of this celestial tradition, a mountain of stone engineered with a precision that defies simple explanation. While we often think of it as a pharaoh's tomb, its true genius is written in the stars and in its breathtaking geometry. The pyramid's four sides are aligned with the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy that is almost unnerving. The error is less than 1/15th of a single degree, a feat of surveying that would be challenging even with modern technology. This was not a rough approximation. It was an act of deliberate, flawless orientation, as if the builders were trying to anchor the structure to the very axis of the world itself. This alignment goes far beyond the ground. Deep within the pyramid, narrow shafts were constructed, angling upward from the main chambers. For a long time, their purpose was a complete mystery. We now understand that these were not ventilation shafts, but precise sightlines to the heavens. One shaft was aimed directly at the North Polar Star of that era, a star called Thuban, which served as the fixed point around which the entire night sky appeared to turn. Another was aligned with the constellation of Orion, a pattern of stars deeply woven into Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. This means the pyramid was not just a static monument. It was a dynamic instrument designed to connect the soul of the king with the eternal, unchanging cycles of the cosmos. The level of knowledge required to achieve this is staggering. It speaks of a masterclass of astronomers and engineers, a school of thought that understood the slow wobble of the Earth's axis over millennia, a cycle known as precession. They built for a cosmic reality that would only be true for a specific window in time, proving their knowledge was both profound and ancient. This was not the work of a single brilliant mind, but the culmination of a long, sophisticated tradition, a legacy of sky watching translated into the most permanent form imaginable. Why would such a powerful and successful architectural science, one capable of building for eternity, ever be lost to history? The sophistication of these ancient astronomers stretches even further back in time, into what is now the world's largest hot desert. Long before the sands of Egypt saw the first pyramid, a remarkable stone circle was being arranged on the shores of a vanished lake in the Sahara. Nabta Playa is a collection of stone slabs and megaliths, a calendar carved into the earth over 7,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest known astronomical observatories on our planet. Its builders were not a settled, temple-raising society, but a nomadic people who herded cattle. Their survival depended on the delicate rhythm of the seasons, specifically the arrival of the summer monsoon rains that would temporarily fill the lake and bring life to the parched land. Their genius was in recognizing that the sky held the key to this cycle. They carefully positioned stones to align with the rising sun of the summer solstice, and other stones seemed to map the positions of important stars. This was their sophisticated, mobile calendar, a way of knowing precisely when to return to the Playa as the life-giving rains approached. It represents an incredible leap in human thought, the moment a nomadic culture began to use monumental architecture to predict their environment. Yet this brilliant adaptation could not last forever. The climate began to shift, and the Sahara slowly transformed from a grassy savanna into the immense desert we know today. The lake at Nabta Playa dried up, and the seasonal rains became unreliable, then ceased. The very environmental cues that their celestial calendar was built to predict were vanishing. Faced with this gradual but unrelenting change, the people had no choice but to abandon their sacred site. They moved on, likely dispersing into other regions, taking their knowledge with them. But when a culture is uprooted, when its connection to a specific place and its celestial markers is broken, the intricate knowledge tied to that place can begin to fade. The precise meaning of the stones, the oral traditions that explained their alignments, all of it was vulnerable to being lost over generations of migration and new hardships. The story of Nabta Playa is a poignant reminder that advanced knowledge is not always lost to conquest or catastrophe. Sometimes it is simply erased by the slow, silent turning of the world itself, a gentle but relentless force that can sever a civilization's deepest connection to the cosmos. High on a sheer rock face in Chaco Canyon, a sliver of sunlight performs a silent, ancient dance. The ancestral Pueblones transformed a natural feature into one of history's most elegant celestial instruments. They carefully positioned 3 massive stone slabs on a ledge of Ħaġar butte, creating a precise aperture. On the summer solstice, a dagger of light pierces through this opening and slices directly through the center of a carved spiral petroglyph on the rock wall behind it. As the seasons turn, the light shifts its performance. During the equinoxes, a band of light perfectly brackets the same spiral, and on the winter solstice, 2 daggers of light appear to frame it on either side. This was not a passive marking of time, it was an active, dramatic display, a union of engineering and artistry where the sun itself became a painter, using light to annotate a sacred symbol. This sun dagger was a sophisticated observatory built directly into the living rock, a perfect fusion of the celestial and the terrestrial. The spiral petroglyph is believed to represent the sun, the cycle of the seasons, or perhaps the Puebloan people's own journey through time, a cosmic map made visible only by the sun's precise interaction with the human-made stone frame. The knowledge required to calibrate this effect, to understand the exact angle of the sun's descent throughout the year and position multi-ton slabs to catch it just so, speaks of a profound and patient astronomical tradition. Yet the society that achieved this delicate harmony with the cosmos would not endure in this place. The great houses of Chaco Canyon, the center of a vast and complex cultural network, were eventually emptied. A combination of factors, including a shifting climate that led to extended periods of hardship, prompted a gradual migration away from the canyon. The people moved on, taking their living culture and oral traditions with them. They left behind the silent butte and its light show, a precise astronomical tool whose deepest ceremonial and practical meanings are now a subject of quiet contemplation and scholarly debate. The sun dagger remains a breathtaking testament to a people who did not just watch the sky, but who wrote their understanding of it in light and stone, only for the wind to slowly erase the instructions. The stones themselves could not write down their secrets, but the people who built them possessed a living library far more resilient than parchment. Across countless generations, they perfected the art of memory, encoding intricate astronomical data into the very fabric of their culture. This was the power of oral tradition, a sophisticated system of knowledge transfer where complex engineering principles were woven into epic stories, set to rhythmic songs, and embedded in the precise choreography of seasonal rituals. An elder teaching an apprentice was not merely passing along facts, they were implanting a mental star chart, a celestial calendar, and a blueprint for stone placement through repetitive, rhythmic recitation. This method was incredibly effective, allowing vast amounts of information to be preserved with remarkable accuracy for centuries. But this system had a critical vulnerability. It relied entirely on an unbroken chain of human memory. This knowledge was not for everyone. It is highly likely that the deepest understanding of celestial cycles and architectural alignment was considered sacred, a source of immense spiritual and political power. This wisdom was guarded by a secretive class of priest architects, a specialized lineage where this cosmic science was passed from master to a carefully chosen successor. These individuals were the custodians of a profound truth, the keepers of the relationship between the earth and the heavens. The survival of their knowledge depended completely on the survival of their lineage. A single break in that chain could be catastrophic. The loss of these specialized knowledge keepers, whether through the hardships of conflict, the devastation of illness, or the slow erosion of cultural assimilation, would have been a terminal event. When the last elder who knew the meaning of a specific solstice alignment or the correct chant for calibrating a sun dagger passed without an heir, that knowledge vanished in a single generation. The principles of their celestial engineering, so carefully memorized and protected, evaporated from human consciousness, leaving behind the magnificent, silent stones as the only testament to a science that was once sung into existence. The very secrecy that protected their power ultimately sealed its fate, creating a legacy of magnificent questions where there was once a living, spoken answer. This silent conversation between stone and sky finally found its voice in a new kind of science. Archaeoastronomy emerged as a bridge between two distant worlds, the careful excavation of the past and the precise calculations of the cosmos. Its mission is deceptively simple: to understand how ancient cultures saw the heavens, not through our modern eyes but through their own. This is not about proving they had advanced technology, but about listening to the story their architecture is trying to tell us. The methods are as meticulous as the original constructions. Researchers use high-precision surveying equipment to measure the alignments of monuments, confirming whether a doorway truly faces the solstice sunrise or if a passage is angled toward a specific star. They then use sophisticated software to roll back the clock, simulating the night sky as it would have appeared thousands of years ago. This allows them to see if the stars we see today are the same ones the builders referenced, accounting for the slow wobble in the Earth's axis over millennia. This scientific rigor transformed the field from a fringe interest into a respected academic discipline. What was once dismissed as coincidence is now supported by overwhelming evidence of intentional design. We can now say with confidence that the sun dagger at Chaco Canyon was a calibrated instrument, that the roof box at Newgrange was engineered to a tolerance of inches, and that the pyramids of Giza were locked to the pole star of their age. Archaeoastronomy does not diminish the mystery of these places, it deepens it. By applying the cold, hard light of modern science, we are not explaining away the magic. Instead, we are beginning to reconstruct the worldview of the architects themselves, a perspective where the celestial and the earthly were a single, interconnected reality. We are learning to read the first chapter of humanity's oldest book, written in stone and aligned with the stars. A round tower rises from the flat Yucatan jungle, its domed top resembling a giant snail shell frozen in stone. This is El Caracol at Chichen Itza, a structure that breaks entirely from the angular Mayan temple style. Its design was dictated not by aesthetics, but by pure function, creating one of the ancient world's most sophisticated observatories. Narrow, slit-like windows pierce the cylindrical tower, not for letting in light, but for framing specific slices of the night sky. The most significant of these sightlines were aimed at the extreme rising and setting points of the planet Venus. For the Maya, Venus was not just a bright star, it was a god, a celestial deity whose movements were woven into the very fabric of their warfare and royal authority. They calculated its complex 584-day cycle with astonishing precision, tracking its appearances as both the morning and evening star. This astronomical knowledge was power. A priest astronomer standing in the tower could predict the future position of Venus and, by extension, advise a king on the most auspicious times to launch a military campaign or to conduct a sacred ceremony. Their understanding extended to predicting solar eclipses, events seen as moments of cosmic imbalance and potential danger. The ability to foresee such a dramatic celestial event would have cemented the priestly class's authority, presenting them as the essential interpreters of the god's will. This profound connection between the heavens and earthly power supported a vibrant civilization for centuries, yet this sophisticated system was not destined to last. The collapse of the classic Maya civilization was a slow unraveling, likely driven by a combination of extended periods of hardship and internal conflict. Their great cities, including Chichen Itza, were gradually abandoned to the jungle. As the social order fragmented, the specialized class of astronomer priests dispersed. The unbroken chain of knowledge transmission was severed. The precise meanings behind the tower's alignments, the complex mathematical formulas for their calendars, the oral traditions that gave context to their predictions, all of this began to fade, retreating from science into legend. The silent stone tower remained, a testament to a vision of the cosmos so advanced that it would take centuries for the modern world to fully appreciate what had been lost. These master architects did not see the landscape as an obstacle to be conquered, but as a canvas to be integrated. A sacred mountain was not merely a backdrop for their temple, it was an active component in their celestial machinery. They would position a stone circle or a pyramid so that on the dawn of a solstice, the sun would appear to crown a distant peak, or so a significant star would rise directly over a specific notch in the hills. This practice, a deep fusion of astronomy and geography, is known as topographical astronomy. It reveals a world view where the earth and sky were two halves of a single, breathing entity. The natural horizon was their permanent, unshakable reference point, a tool as vital as any stone pillar they could erect. Consider the placement of the Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, high in the Andes. This intricately carved granite pillar is often called a hitching post for the sun. Its angles and surfaces are precisely shaped to track the sun's progression throughout the year, casting shadows that mark the equinoxes and solstices. But its power is magnified by its location. It is positioned within a ceremonial complex that is itself cradled by staggering mountain peaks, creating a direct visual and spiritual link between the carved stone, the moving sun, and the eternal mountains. The architects were not just building on the land, they were building with it, using the entire panorama as a living part of their cosmic diagram. This required a generational intimacy with a place, a patient observation of how the sun and stars danced with the local topography over countless cycles. It was a skill born from a life lived deeply within a specific locale, reading subtle cues that are invisible to a temporary visitor. This profound connection is something modern construction, with its focus on flattening and reshaping the land, has almost entirely forgotten. We build for efficiency and view, but they built for harmony, weaving their structures into a celestial and terrestrial dialogue that was meant to last for ages. Their legacy is a challenge to our own relationship with the world, a reminder that the greatest monuments are those that speak not just to the sky, but to the very earth from which they rise. Without a single gear or lens, these architects measured the heavens with elegant simplicity. Their most fundamental tool was nothing more than a vertical stick planted firmly in the ground, known as a gnomon. By patiently tracking the moving shadow it cast throughout the day and across the seasons, they could map the sun's path with stunning accuracy. The shortest shadow of the day marked true noon, while the varying length of the shadow at noon from one day to the next revealed the approaching solstices and equinoxes. This simple device was a complete solar observatory, its precision limited only by the care and patience of the observer. In ancient Egypt, this principle was refined into an instrument called the merkit. Using a plumb line and a narrow, forked sighting tool, Egyptian astronomers could track the transit of specific stars across the night sky. This was not for stargazing, it was for practical, terrestrial engineering. By aligning two of these instruments along a north-south axis, they could establish a true meridian line, a foundational reference that allowed them to orient the vast bases of the pyramids with their near-perfect cardinal alignment. How do you ensure a foundation spanning acres is perfectly square without a modern theodolite? One compelling theory involves the use of reflective pools of water. By creating a still, flat surface, they could observe the reflection of a key star like the pole star and use its mirrored position to calibrate their sight lines on the ground. This turns a simple trench of water into a precise leveling and alignment tool, a clever fusion of celestial observation and elementary physics. For more complex projects like calibrating the sun dagger at Chaco Canyon, they likely employed temporary wooden frameworks. These would have acted as giant protractors and sighting jigs, allowing them to experiment with the angle and position of stone slabs before committing to the back-breaking work of permanent placement. Their true technology was not in metal or mechanics, but in a deep, generational understanding of geometry and an unwavering commitment to long-term observation. They invested not in complex machinery, but in intellectual capital, building a sophisticated science from the humblest of materials. This reliance on knowledge over hardware is precisely what made their entire tradition so powerful and yet so mysteriously vulnerable to being lost. Beneath the quiet island of Malta lies a world turned inside out. The Halsaflieni Hypogeum is a labyrinthine sanctuary carved downward over many centuries, a multi-level complex hewn entirely from the living rock. While it served as a final resting place for thousands, its design suggests a purpose far beyond a silent tomb. This was a place designed for the living, an instrument built to manipulate sound and perception. Certain chambers are engineered with a breathtaking acoustic precision. A deep voice spoken in one of the smaller, oval rooms creates a powerful resonance, the sound vibrating through the very stone and air in a way that is felt physically as much as it is heard. This phenomenon is not an accident of construction. Researchers suggest these were oracle chambers, where ritual chanting or drumming would generate frequencies that could alter brainwave patterns, inducing trance-like states. In this sacred darkness, sound became a vehicle for shamanic journeying, a technology of the spirit. The architect's genius extended beyond acoustics. Though buried, the Hypogeum maintains a subtle but profound connection to the world above. Shafts were carefully carved from the upper levels to channel beams of sunlight deep into the central chambers. On specific days, likely aligned with solstices or equinoxes, these light shafts would have illuminated carved spirals and red ochre paintings, creating a celestial clock in the heart of the Earth. The interplay was deliberate, a fusion of sunlight and resonant sound designed to create a complete sensory and spiritual experience. This was holistic architecture at its most advanced, where astronomy, acoustics, and ceremony were woven into a single, powerful practice aimed at bridging the human and the divine. The ultimate fate of the Hypogeum, however, is what makes it a perfect symbol of lost knowledge. Sometime around 2,500 years before the Common Era, the site was deliberately sealed. Its entrance was hidden, and its very memory faded from the awareness of the people who lived above it. It lay in complete silence for millennia, a buried library of stone and sound, forgotten until a chance discovery in the early 20th century. Its sealing was so total, its disappearance so complete, that it stands as a silent testament to how an entire school of thought, a sophisticated science of the sacred, can vanish from the world, leaving only echoes in the dark. Even the most brilliant societies are not immune to the turning of the world. The grand celestial calendars and towering observatories required immense social stability to build and maintain, a stability that can be fragile. A single generation of hardship can unravel a tradition that took centuries to perfect. For many of these cultures, the end came not with a single dramatic event, but with a slow, grinding convergence of challenges. Scientific analysis of ancient climate data reveals a pattern. Tree rings from Europe and sediment cores from across the globe tell a story of periods of extreme and unpredictable weather. What was once a reliable growing season could be replaced by years of relentless rain or punishing drought. For an agricultural society living on the edge of subsistence, a few failed harvests in a row would be catastrophic. This environmental pressure placed immense strain on the social fabric. Resources became scarce, and the very foundations of communal life began to fracture. In such times, the priorities of a society shift dramatically. The question is no longer when the solstice will arrive to conduct a ceremony, but where the next meal will come from. The specialized class of priest architects who depended on the surplus food produced by farmers would find their position untenable. Their profound knowledge of the stars, once the source of their authority, becomes a luxury a struggling community can no longer afford to support. The intricate oral traditions, the long apprenticeships, the careful observation of the sky, all of it requires a peace and prosperity that has suddenly vanished. As social order breaks down, the keepers of this knowledge may themselves fall to illness or conflict, or be forced to flee, scattering to the winds. A master who dies without passing on his secrets takes an entire library with him. The dispersal of a population is the final blow to a living tradition. When people are forced to migrate to survive, they leave behind the very landscapes their celestial science was built upon. The sacred mountain peak that marked the winter solstice sunset, the specific notch in the horizon used to track Venus, these geographical anchors lose their meaning in a new land. The knowledge so deeply tied to a specific place becomes abstract, then irrelevant, and finally forgotten. The stones remain, but the song that gave them purpose fades into a silent echo. High in the thin air of the Andes, the Incas engineered a stone that held a conversation with the sun. The Intihuatana at Machu Picchu is a granite pillar, its angles and planes carved with breathtaking precision, rising from the living rock of the sacred mountain. Its name translates to the hitching post of the sun, a powerful metaphor for a civilization that saw itself as a partner to the cosmos. This was not a passive monument, but an active astronomical instrument. On the equinoxes, the sun would cast no shadow from the central pillar at its zenith. a perfect moment of balance where the celestial and terrestrial worlds were in harmony. The shifting angles of shadows cast across its carved platforms throughout the year created a precise calendar etched in light and darkness, tracking the sun's journey with unwavering accuracy. For the Inca, an empire stretched across one of the world's most challenging landscapes, this knowledge was a matter of survival. The Intihuatana told them precisely when to plant their potatoes and quinoa in the high-altitude valleys, when to expect the first frost, and when to celebrate the sun's return. It was the central processor of their agricultural and ceremonial life, a stone brain calculating the rhythms of the world. This profound connection between sky, stone, and sustenance made the Intihuatana a primary target during the Spanish conquest. Recognizing its spiritual and political significance, conquistadors systematically sought out and destroyed these stones across the empire, deliberately smashing the pillars they called idols. This was not merely an act of religious suppression, it was a calculated strike against the intellectual heart of Inca civilization. By shattering the hitching post of the sun, they were not just breaking rock, they were severing a people's link to their celestial calendar, their agricultural cycle, and their cultural identity. The knowledge held in those precise angles, the oral traditions that explained the subtleties of its shadow play, vanished with the stone itself. The example at Machu Picchu survives only because the city was abandoned and its location forgotten by the outside world, a lone sentinel preserving a silent, broken dialogue with the heavens. This provides one of history's starkest examples of how architectural knowledge can vanish not through natural disaster or slow decline, but through the deliberate, targeted erasure of a culture's most sacred science. These alignments were far more than a calendar on a grand scale. They were a symbolic language, a way for an entire culture to express its deepest beliefs about existence. When a structure was aligned with the sun, it was often speaking a story of death and rebirth. Think of the sun's journey through the year, growing weaker each day after the summer solstice until it reached its lowest, weakest point at the winter solstice. To ancient peoples, this was not a simple astronomical fact, it was a cosmic drama. The sun was dying, and they built their monuments to ensure its return. The midwinter sunrise at Newgrange, flooding a tomb with light, was a powerful declaration that even in the deepest darkness, life would triumph. It was a symbol of hope made manifest in stone, a promise of renewal for the entire community and for the souls of those who had passed on. Similarly, structures aligned with the stars often served a different but equally profound symbolic purpose. The narrow shafts pointing from the heart of the Great Pyramid toward the constellation of Orion were not built for the living. They were pathways for the soul of the pharaoh, a celestial ladder guiding him to join the eternal, unchanging stars. In this worldview, the soul did not simply vanish. It undertook a journey to the sky to dwell with the ancestors and the gods. The monument itself became a launch pad for this spiritual voyage, a permanent connection between the earthly realm and the divine. This belief transforms a massive pile of stones into a sacred machine for the afterlife, a bridge built by human hands to span the impossible distance between our world and the heavens. This cosmic symbolism was the true engine behind these immense projects. The motivation to move a 50-ton stone for miles was not purely practical. It was driven by a need to make the abstract tangible, to carve a permanent prayer into the very landscape. The architecture was a physical manifestation of their entire cosmic worldview, a three-dimensional map of their understanding of life, death, and the universe. It was a way to participate actively in the great cycles of creation, to ensure the sun would rise, the rains would fall, and the souls of their people would find their rightful place among the stars. Without understanding this deep spiritual imperative, we see only the engineering marvel. but when we listen to the symbolism, we begin to hear the whispers of a people trying to build a conversation with eternity. Across a stretch of coastal Brittany, a silent army of stone stands in perfect, eerie formation. The Karnak alignments are not a single monument, but a vast and sprawling complex of over 3,000 megaliths arranged in long, parallel rows that march across the landscape for miles. To walk among them is to feel a profound sense of order imposed upon the natural world, a geometric puzzle written on a colossal scale. The sheer number of stones, their careful placement, and the immense labor required to erect them point to a society with a powerful, unified vision that endured for generations. Yet, unlike the temples of Malta or the Pyramid of Giza, there are no carvings, no central tombs, no obvious ceremonial altars. The purpose of this grand design is locked within the stones themselves and their relationship to the sky. The dominant theory, born from decades of archaeoastronomical study, is that these rows form a gigantic cosmic diagram. Specific alignments appear to target the extreme rising and setting points of the sun at the solstices, while other rows may have tracked the more complex 18.6-year cycle of the moon. This was not a temple for a single dramatic light show, but a persistent landscape-scale observatory. It functioned as a permanent calendar, its lines acting as sightlines for a class of astronomer priests who could walk the avenues and read the celestial time of year based on which stone a star or planet rose above. The coordination required is almost beyond comprehension. To plan and execute such a project over centuries implies a stable, hierarchical society with a shared belief system so compelling that it motivated the movement of thousands of tons of granite. What could have unified a people to such an extent, and what profound truth did they see in the heavens that demanded this permanent, stone transcription of the sky's movements? Then, around 4,000 years ago, the work stopped. The culture that conceived this masterpiece of earthly astronomy simply faded away, leaving no written records, no descendants who remembered the chant or the reason. The people vanished, but their stones remain, a silent testament to a cosmic vision so vast we are still learning how to read its first lines. Perhaps the great silence was not an ending, but a transformation. The sophisticated science of aligning stone with stars did not necessarily vanish into the air. It may have simply changed its form, trickling down through the centuries in new and unexpected ways. Consider the enigmatic Druids of the Celtic world, who emerged long after the great megalithic monuments of places like Karnak had fallen into disuse. The Druids left no stone circles of their own, yet classical writers described them as profound philosophers and astronomers, holding secret knowledge of the natural world and the movements of the heavens. They venerated sacred groves of trees, seeing them as living temples. Could it be that the Druids were not the originators of this celestial wisdom, but its inheritors? The knowledge of the earlier megalithic builders whose stone calendars dotted the landscape may have been absorbed and transformed by this new priestly class. The principles of solar and lunar cycles did not disappear, but were translated from a language of stone into a tradition of oral poetry, ritual, and natural philosophy. The practical engineering of moving 50-ton blocks was lost, but the underlying astronomical observations lived on, repurposed for a different age and a different kind of society. This pattern of transformation echoes elsewhere. The early Greek philosophers who began to articulate a cosmos governed by natural laws rather than capricious gods were standing on a foundation laid by millennia of sky watchers. Their revolutionary ideas about a spherical Earth and the orderly motions of planets did not emerge from a vacuum. They were likely the culmination of astronomical knowledge that had been slowly filtering into the Mediterranean world for centuries, knowledge born from the patient, long-term observations of prehistoric cultures. The grand architectural context was stripped away, but the core insights remained, evolving into the first seeds of Western science. The great myths of cultures worldwide often speak of gods and heroes who walk among the stars, of celestial chariots and underworld journeys. These stories are not merely fantasies. Many researchers suggest they are the cultural memory of an older, more technical understanding of the sky, a science that has been recast as legend once its original purpose was forgotten. The knowledge of the stone architects did not always die. Sometimes it simply shed its skin, moving from the realm of the monumental into the realm of story and song, ensuring its survival in a form we are only now beginning to recognize. On the eastern coast of India, a stone chariot of the gods stands frozen in its final journey. The Sun Temple of Konark is a breathtaking monument conceived on a scale of pure grandeur. It was built to resemble the colossal chariot of the sun god Surya, pulled by 7 mighty stone horses, forever straining toward the dawn. Every inch of its structure is a masterpiece of symbolic architecture, from the 24 exquisitely carved wheels along its base to the soaring tower that once reached for the sky. The entire temple was a cosmic machine, engineered with a profound understanding of the sun's path. Its main entrance was positioned with such precision that the first golden rays of the rising sun would flood through the doorway, illuminating the central deity within in a dramatic burst of light. This was not just a beautiful effect, it was the temple's sacred purpose fulfilled each morning, a daily reunion of the god with his own light. The 24 wheels are not merely decorative. Each is a complex work of art with detailed spokes and hubs. Research suggests these wheels functioned as a sophisticated sundial. By reading the shadows cast by the spokes across the intricate carvings on the wheel rims, priests could accurately tell the time of day. This integration of timekeeping into the very foundation of the temple reveals a culture for which astronomy, religion, and daily life were a single, seamless reality. It represents a continuous, unbroken tradition of sacred architecture in India, a lineage of builders who saw their work as a bridge between the earthly and the celestial. Yet, despite the temple's enduring presence, the specific guilds of architects and artisans who brought this vision to life have vanished into the shadows of history. Their names, their techniques, and the oral traditions that guided their hands have been lost, leaving behind only the magnificent, silent testimony of the chariot itself, a perfect vessel for a celestial passenger whose driver has long since departed. A profound transformation in human thought began to ripple across the ancient world. The old ways, which saw every mountain, river, and star as a living, conscious force, were gradually challenged by a powerful new idea, the concept of a single, all-powerful God who existed beyond the physical realm. This shift from a world animated by many spirits to one governed by a solitary, transcendent deity fundamentally changed humanity's relationship with the cosmos. When the sun and moon are no longer seen as gods in their own right, but merely as creations of a distant, all-powerful being, the motivation to build monumental stone calendars to appease them begins to fade. The intricate daily dialogue with the celestial bodies, which had once been a matter of survival and sacred duty, was slowly replaced by a different kind of faith, one that looked beyond the physical world for answers. This did not happen overnight, but over centuries as new religious doctrines spread through trade, conquest, and conversion. The specialized class of priest architects who held the secret knowledge of solstices and star cycles found their role and their power becoming obsolete. Why dedicate a lifetime to memorizing the complex 18-year cycle of the moon when the new spiritual leaders preached that divine will, not celestial mechanics, governed human fate? Their sophisticated science, once the bedrock of cultural authority, was increasingly viewed as a pagan relic, a superstition from a bygone era. the very purpose of architecture began to transform. Instead of building structures to actively participate in the cosmic cycle, the new faiths often built houses of worship designed to turn the gaze inward, away from the stars and toward introspection and prayer. The knowledge of how to align a temple with the rising sun of the solstice was no longer passed from master to apprentice. That sacred thread was cut, and the reason for the standing stones was slowly forgotten, leaving them as silent monuments to a forgotten conversation between earth and sky. The lower temple at Mnajdra holds a secret that unfolds with the turning of seasons. While its sister temples capture the drama of the solstices, this structure performs a more subtle, yet equally profound, celestial dance. On the mornings of the spring and autumn equinox, when day and night hang in perfect balance across the globe, a beam of sunlight pierces the main doorway of the lower temple. It does not simply flood the interior with light. Instead, this ray travels with purpose, moving across the stone floor to illuminate a specific, carved slab set deep within the sanctuary. This is not a vague wash of light, but a precise spotlight, a golden finger pointing to a sacred spot on one of only 2 days in the entire year. The geometry required to achieve this effect is staggering. The architects had to calculate the exact angle of the sun as it broke the horizon on those specific mornings. They then had to orient the entire temple structure, shaping the massive stone doorway to act as a perfect aperture. The inner corridor itself becomes a light tube, its length and direction calibrated so the sunbeam would strike its target with pinpoint accuracy. This was a project that could not be completed in a single lifetime. It demanded generations of patient observation. An elder would note where the equinox light fell 1 year, and his successor would spend his life subtly adjusting the architectural plans, perhaps shifting the placement of a single stone by a hand's breadth to refine the alignment for the next generation. There were no written formulas, no blueprints to consult. The entire process, from initial observation to final, flawless calibration, existed only as a living knowledge passed from master to apprentice. This was a vanishingly precise skill, a celestial science encoded in memory and manifested in stone. When the last keeper of that knowledge passed away, the secret of the alignment did not vanish from the temple, but it vanished from human understanding, leaving behind a silent, perfect machine waiting for the sun to bring it to life once more. A new generation of explorers now walks these ancient sites, armed not with chisels and ropes, but with lasers and algorithms. Modern technology has become our greatest ally in deciphering the silent language of the stones, revealing a hidden layer of intention invisible to the naked eye. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses deep into the earth, mapping buried foundations and forgotten processional ways without ever lifting a shovel. This allows archaeologists to understand the full scale of a site, seeing how a single stone circle was often just the heart of a much larger ceremonial landscape. From high above, satellite imagery and LiDAR scanning perform a different kind of magic. LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, uses laser pulses to strip away the dense canopy of forests, digitally erasing centuries of overgrowth to reveal the true shape of the land beneath. In the jungles of Central America, this technology has uncovered vast, sprawling cities and networks of causeways, showing how entire urban plans were oriented to celestial events. These tools allow us to see the terrain as the master architects themselves saw it, identifying sacred mountains and horizon notches that served as their permanent, natural reference points. We can now trace lines of sight between distant monuments, revealing that a solitary standing stone on one hilltop might have been a deliberate marker, lining up with a tomb in the valley and the rising moon over a distant peak. This was a coordinated system of cosmic observation on a grand scale. Sophisticated software then takes this data further, creating precise three-dimensional models of the sites. Researchers can input the exact coordinates and then run a simulation of the sky backwards through time, calculating precisely where the sun, moon, and stars would have appeared on the horizon thousands of years ago. This digital time travel confirms alignments that were once speculative, proving that a certain window in a temple was designed to frame the star Sirius, or that a long earthwork was aligned to the southernmost setting of the moon. Technology is not diminishing the mystery of these places, it is deepening our awe for the precision of their creators. It provides the hard evidence that their celestial alignments were deliberate, sophisticated, and woven into the very fabric of their world. We are finally learning to read the full manuscript of their cosmic blueprint, a text written not on paper, but across the entire face of the Earth. Their silent blueprint for harmony between the built and cosmic worlds was never truly erased. It simply lay dormant, waiting for a new age to rediscover its wisdom. The ancient impulse to build in concert with the sun and stars echoes today in the sleek lines of modern sustainable architecture. Contemporary designers are now reviving the core principle that a building should not fight its environment, but learn from it. We see this in structures carefully angled to capture the low winter sun for natural warmth, while using deep overhangs to block the high, harsh summer heat. This is not just about energy efficiency, it is a philosophical return to that ancient dialogue, using the sun's path as a fundamental design partner, much like the architects of Mnajdra did millennia ago. This philosophy extends into the growing movement of biophilic design, which seeks to reconnect our living and working spaces with the natural world. It is the same foundational idea that human well-being is deeply tied to our connection with light, air, and the rhythms of nature. The modern glass atrium flooding an office with light is a direct descendant of the Solstice corridor illuminating a stone altar. Both are designed to make us feel part of a larger, living system. Even the fascination with sacred geometry, the belief that certain mathematical ratios create spaces that feel inherently harmonious and alive, finds its roots in the intuitive precision of the megalithic builders. Their legacy is not a set of forgotten techniques, but a timeless question. How do we build a world that reflects our place in the cosmos? Their stones ask us if our own structures honor the light, respect the land, and create a sense of meaning. In an age of climate consciousness and a longing for authentic connection, their vision is experiencing a powerful renaissance. We are slowly remembering that the greatest architecture has always been a conversation, not a monologue, a bridge between human ingenuity and the enduring order of the universe. On a remote Scottish isle, a stone cross reaches for the sky as if mapping a celestial body onto the earth. The Callanish stones form a breathtaking arrangement, a central circle with arms stretching north, south, east, and west, creating a silhouette unlike any other megalithic site. This is not a monument dedicated solely to the sun, but a sophisticated lunar observatory engineered for an event of profound patience. Every 18.6 years, the moon enters a phase known as the minor lunar standstill. During this long cycle, our moon does not simply rise and set in its usual path. Instead, it appears to skim the southern horizon, dancing and hovering at its very lowest point in the sky before slowly beginning its long climb back north. The architects of Callanish positioned their stones with a genius for this specific, generational event. As the moon approaches this minor standstill, an observer standing at the heart of the circle would witness a breathtaking sight. The low skimming moon would appear to roll along the horizon, perfectly framed between the lines of the stone avenues, as if guided on a celestial track laid down in stone. To encode this 18-year rhythm into architecture required a continuity of observation that is almost unimaginable today. It means an elder would have witnessed the event once in his prime, and then had to wait nearly 2 decades to confirm his observations, trusting that his apprentice would be there to see it again and pass the knowledge forward. This was a science that operated on a timescale of human lifetimes, a long game of celestial record-keeping that demanded absolute dedication. What compelled this level of commitment? The connection to the moon's cycles would have been deeply practical for a coastal people, as the tides governed fishing, travel, and the very rhythm of life. Yet the sheer grandeur of the stone setting suggests a purpose that transcended the practical. The moon, in its slow, hypnotic dance, likely held a central place in their mythology, perhaps seen as a guide for souls, a measure of time for ceremonies, or a deity in its own right. The true meaning is locked within the stones, a secret kept so well that even the purpose of this magnificent lunar clock was eventually forgotten by the descendants of its builders. Even with our advanced tools and deeper understanding, the silent stones continue to guard their deepest secrets. The central debate that haunts this field is one of intention. Were these breathtaking alignments the product of a sophisticated, deliberate science, or are we simply seeing patterns where none were meant to exist? Skeptics offer a compelling counterargument. They suggest that with thousands of ancient sites scattered across the globe, statistical probability alone means some will accidentally line up with celestial events. Perhaps a doorway faced east simply to welcome the morning light, with no deeper solstice meaning. Could the entire narrative of celestial architects be a beautiful story we've projected onto the past? This perspective urges caution, reminding us that our modern desire to find meaning can sometimes color our interpretation of the evidence. Yet, the sheer precision found at sites like Newgrange and the Sun Dagger presents a powerful rebuttal. The roof box is not a rough opening. It is a meticulously engineered slit that captures a single beam of light for only a few minutes on one specific day. That is not an accident. It is the product of patient, generational observation and a clear, unwavering intent to capture a moment of cosmic significance. The debate then shifts from whether they could do it to why they did it. How much of this knowledge was practical, a farmer's almanac written in stone to ensure survival? And how much was purely spiritual, a way to commune with the gods of the sky? The answer is likely that these concepts were inseparable. The solstice sunrise that told you when to plant your crops was the same celestial event that signaled the rebirth of a god. The architecture served both masters at once, uniting the needs of the body with the longings of the soul in a single stone declaration. This leads to the most tantalizing and controversial question of all. How do we explain the appearance of such similar ideas across the globe, in cultures separated by vast oceans and millennia? From the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of the Maya, the same obsession with solstices, stars, and cosmic order emerges. One theory suggests a common, ancient source, a lost progenitor civilization that spread this celestial science before vanishing into prehistory. It is a captivating idea, but one that lacks concrete evidence. The more widely accepted view is one of independent innovation. This theory posits that any human society, anywhere on Earth, when it reaches a certain level of stability and looks up at the same sky, will inevitably recognize the same cycles. The human mind, confronted with the majestic order of the heavens, will naturally seek to replicate that harmony on Earth. They were not copying a single lost teacher, but rather they were all answering the same cosmic call. The story of the vanished architects is far from complete. Each season of excavation, each new laser scan, adds another piece to this immense global puzzle. The stones are not yet done speaking, and we are only just learning how